small one.
Okay, and we're good to go.
All right. It is time to December 7th, 2020 Governing Council meeting to order. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to
the republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under God,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 1.02, roll call vote to establish a quorum. Ms. Morrow-Real?
Thank you. And when I call your district, if you'll say your name for me, because I don't see everybody's picture. Afton?
Kenny Edgar.
Thank you. Bayless?
Shannon Kohler.
Thank you. Brentwood? Clayton? Oh, I'm sorry. Brentwood?
Yeah, I'm here. It's Melissa Naird.
Thank you. Clayton?
Stacy Seawalk.
Thank you. Ferguson Florissant? Hancock Place?
Jennifer Kosman.
Thank you. Hazelwood?
Zella Williams.
Thank you. Jennings?
John Schlereth.
Thank you. Kirkwood?
Darnell Frost.
Thank you. Ladue?
Keisha Lee.
Thank you. Lindbergh?
Jennifer Miller?
Thank you. Maplewood Richmond Heights? Melville?
Larry Felton.
Normandy?
Karen Pierre.
Thank you. Parkway? Pattonville?
Amanda Purnell.
Thank you. Rittner? Riverview Gardens? Veronica Morrow-Real. Rockwood?
Here.
Who is it?
Lynn Midyat.
Thank you. University City?
Joanne Suda.
Thank you. Valley Park?
Adam Watson.
Thank you. And Webster Groves? Okay.
Rittner is here. I think my thing was muted. I apologize. So it's Dr. Stacy Alvin Wilson. I'm here.
Thank you.
All right. And Rita, do we have a quorum?
And
Yes, we have a
Debbie
quorum.
Hopper.
Oh, Debbie Hopper for Parkway is present.
is here.
Okay.
Four, and it's not four, it's
Here.
All right. Is that everybody? Last chance.
4 dozen is.
Yes,
All
I'm here.
right. Item 2.01. Dr. Keenan, are there any changes to the agenda?
Nope, none, no changes.
All right. Move along. Item 3.01. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 9th, 2020 Governing Council meeting?
So moved.
You guys
And a
need
second?
hold on. We need to change. You guys have that Bayless was present and we were not. We had a function at school that evening.
Yeah. So-
On the minutes.
Okay.
Cupcakes.
Yeah, on the minutes, it says that I was there. It says that Shannon Kohler was there on behalf of Bayless, but neither Jeff or Mr. Presek and myself, neither of us were there because we had something going on at our school.
Okay.
To approve the
This is now.
from the September 9th, 2020 council meeting. Okay. Are we good? I think my internet was unstable there. So do we have a motion to approve the amended minutes from the September 9th, 2020 Governing Council meeting?
So moved.
Second,
And a
Rittner.
second. Okay. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? And any abstentions? All right, motion passed. Item 4.01, we do give an opportunity for citizens to make public comments at our meetings. I'm told we have no citizen statements this evening. So we'll move along to item 5.01, PAC updates. Is Ms. Rebby Goebel present and has an update tonight?
Yep, I'm here.
Great.
Rita, I think you have the slides. Can you start the slides?
Yeah, Mark will run the slides.
Okay, great.
He'll pull it up.
Okay, next slide, please. So since I presented, and I have presented the same slides multiple times in the last couple of times that I have been here with the Governing Council, I thought I would streamline this a little bit as much as I can. So for our focus here in 2021, we're going to continue to execute on our mission and pivot just a little bit to really ensure that we're supporting the students within each district, and that is becoming a priority, and aiding that, aiding you in taking that priority back to the boards of education that you represent. So we'd like to make sure that we're driving conversations around improving that special ed in COVID. We're all worried about another shutdown. I'm sure you're hearing from a lot of your parents who are also worried about that, but especially here in the special education community, it has devastating impacts. So we are wanting to make sure that if we go back into a total lockdown situation, it's better than it was before, and that we're in a continuous improvement situation here, as opposed to going back to the way it was earlier this year. And then renewed focus on improving communication between educators, admin, and families. And that, again, is within SSD and the partner districts. If you go to the next slide, please. So the last couple of times I've come, several of your members have said, okay, what can I take back to my Board of Education? What can I take back to my district? So I really wanted to pose some questions or suggest some questions for you to consider at your next Board of Education meeting and when you're meeting with your superintendent next. Is special education a regular part of your board meetings? What metrics are being used? What are the feedback that you're getting from families? Have you asked specifically for feedback from the subset of families that receive special education services in your district? I want you to consider, are you actively asking for input when you're in the planning stage? And then I want you to ask your Board of Education and your superintendent, are we actively supporting local PACs? I know I've got the word actively on there several times, but there's plenty of feedback out there if you ask for it. And a lot of parents are worried about rocking the boat and saying something that is going to get services taken away or negatively impacting their child. And so that proactive seeking of this input on your part is going to draw that information out that I believe it's critical for you to have in order to make decisions and go forward. If there is a parent advisory council in your district, I would nearly guarantee that they are open to discussing these things with you or finding a representative to come to a meeting to share their feedback. So I, again, just wanted to present this to everyone as a conversation starter that you could have with your boards of education and your superintendent. Next slide. This next one is just an update on our membership. And from what we had seen, I believe the last time I presented was right after our August meeting where we had 65 people at our PAC meeting. we've continued to grow. It continues to be something that is important within our community. So we've had an average of 16 members with 12 districts represented at each meeting. The last meeting we had 20 members. I can't remember in 5 years the last time we had 20 active members at any one particular meeting. So the need is definitely there, and your parents are looking for community and any way that you can provide them to provide input into the situations that their children are in. We've had an average of 19 parent visitors at each meeting. So these are people who have not nominated and decided to regularly attend. Some of those are repeat visitors, but a lot of them are unique visitors to our PAC. We're doing some outreach to see why they might not be interested in joining. It's always something that I'm interested in is, okay, you came once, why aren't you interested in coming? The last time I gave this update, we had underrepresented districts on there. There were about 5 districts where there were members, but they had attended fewer than 2 meetings in the last year. All of those have fallen off the list. So we're seeing a re-engagement from some of our members who had drifted away from attending our meetings. But we do still have these unrepresented districts where there has been 0 representation at any meeting in the past year. And I, again, would like to offer whatever resources we have at our disposal to help these districts find and nominate someone to potentially join the Parent Advisory Council. And that is our PAC update. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Rebby. I know that I liked a lot of your focus points going forward. I know that that's important to a lot of SSD parents. So thank you for that. And then are you finding maybe that being able to hold the meetings virtually is allowing your attendance to be better?
100%. And it's something that we are going to be working, and we're already working with Dr. Keenan and her staff on to ensure that we have some sort of virtual opportunity. We've started to game plan what that might look like when some of us are in person, but not everybody. That gets a little trickier, as I'm sure you guys are having those same conversations. But it's absolutely been, I think, an equalizer as far as access to joining the PAC. So we will continue to have some sort of virtual option for the foreseeable future.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions?
I'll ask a question. Do you have a sense of how many school boards do have the SSD report types of topics are included? And is it at every board meeting? Like Parkway meets once a month. Would it be at every meeting or every quarter? Once a year? Kind of what's the...
Your internet kind of cut in and out. Are you asking if I have recommendations or if I have a sense of what other boards of education are doing?
A sense.
I don't.
Yeah, my internet connection is really bad right now tonight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. You know, a lot of our members don't have the capacity to attend every board meeting from the parent perspective. So I know from our perspective, at least, you know, in my home district, it's not always a topic. And from what my district Parent Advisory Council can tell, it's not really ever a specific agenda item. And I know our local PAC is pushing for that. So wanted to bring that up because I think there's there's a lot of data and a lot of input that would be available. Like in my district, we're starting to survey our parents and get a pulse survey, right? What is your feeling about the services that you're getting? What's your outlook for the next couple of weeks and month? How do you feel like things are getting better or worse? Just so that our Parent Advisory Council has a sense of how things are actually going across more than just maybe the 5 people who attend a meeting. And then we're presenting that back to our superintendent. But I don't know if that's going up to the board. I don't know how far up that goes. So sorry, I don't have a
Thank you.
a discrete answer for you.
That's okay. Thanks.
All right. Anything else? Okay, we will
thank
move
you.
along to, thank you, Rabbi. We will move along to item 6.01, approval of the FY21 revised budget. I believe we have a presentation by Dr. Hogg.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. My name is Jeff Hogg. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Special School District. And this evening I'll present the budget revisions as of October 31st for the FY21 school year. So the following slides are an outline of additional increases to the expenditures and reductions to revenue for the FY21 budget. And again, these adjustments are based, are based on information as of October 31st, 2020. So the economic downturn in the spring and the delayed collection of income taxes resulted in some revenue shortfalls for the state of Missouri, which led the governor to announce that there'd be some withholdings to the budget. DESE then gave further guidance and estimated that it would fund the foundation formula at about 94.2% of what was projected. And so when you take that 94.2% out over the year of what Special School District was budgeted to receive from the foundation formula, you're looking at about a $2.83 million reduction in foundation formula. Now, revenue along with income taxes has seemed to stabilize. So we'll continue to monitor this as the year continues. Next slide there, Mark. And so some more additions to the budget. The curriculum department has identified 2 programs that classrooms district-wide should have access to. And when I say district-wide, I mean both our SSD schools and our partner district classrooms. The first is News to You. It's a thematic-based resource, and it's been deemed an essential element of the curriculum. And so the curriculum department wanted every teacher to have access to that. And you'll see that was added at $315,000. The second addition by the curriculum department is Goalbook. It is a toolkit that provides IEP supports for teachers, as well as instructional strategies for our students with universal design. And so that was a $200,000 addition to the budget as well. Technology, the 2 technology additions at this point are Chromebooks to North Tech, and then we had a revision to the Southview budget. Chromebooks at North Tech were supposed to be purchased last spring, but due to COVID closures, the order wasn't processed by the vendor. The Chromebooks weren't shipped and the district wasn't billed. So an addition of $119,000 that was added so that the 350 Chromebooks could be purchased for North Tech for this year. And then last year when we were doing the budget entries, the amount of $2,000 was entered for Southview School when it should have been $13,000. So we need to add $11,000 to make that a total of $13,000 for their budget. And then human resources, at the beginning of this year, the nursing coordinator position became vacant. And in order to have this position encompass much more responsibility, we reclassified the position as a director of health services. And this will allow the overall management of the district health program. So to make that a competitive salary, we added $15,000 to the budget there. And then transportation has 2 additions thus far in the year. And again, these are both due to COVID closures from last spring. In the spring of 2020, the district ordered 2 buses that were not built nor delivered until this fiscal year. Money was planned, but not spent from last year. So an addition of $165,000 That'll cover the purchase of the 2 buses for this year. And then a column lift system, which is a mechanical issue or mechanical tool. We ordered that again last spring, but due to closures, it could not be installed. And so that was installed this fiscal year at a cost of $73,540. So in total, in summary, as of right now, and like I said, we'll continue to monitor this. The DESI revenue will be reduced by a minimum 2.8 million, probably closer to 3 million when it's said and done. And then the total additional expenditures from the previous slides equal $899,631. So those are the additions to expenditures and reductions to revenue thus far for the budget this year. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the FY21 revised budget?
So move.
Second.
Parkway.
Second, Kirkwood.
Okay, and then any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Against say nay. And any abstentions? All right, the motion to approve the FY21 revised budget has passed. All right. Our next item is the presentation of the PBIS awards. Is Ms. Diebold present?
I am here. Hello, thank you so much. My name is Trish Diebold. I'm an administrator for the Professional Learning Division. And it is my distinct honor to be with you virtually tonight to celebrate the hard work, the dedication, and the accomplishments of some amazing schools and their exemplary implementation of positive behavior interventions and supports, or PBIS. The National Center defines PBIS as an evidence-based 3-tiered framework for improving and integrating the data, systems, and practices affecting student outcomes every day, or in other words, providing an intentional, safe, predictable, and supportive environment for all students to thrive. We've been fortunate to partner with schools in St. Louis County in their PBIS journeys for over 2 decades, and we've seen some amazing growth and accomplishments for staff and students. However, as we know, last year was not the typical year, and our day-to-day lives were and continue to be disrupted by an unprecedented pandemic that has caused educators to shift, to pivot, to innovate, and to be steadfast in their commitment to their students and communities. These challenges were beyond what we could have expected, yet the 8 schools that we're celebrating tonight met those challenges head-on in their collective abilities to implement PBIS with authenticity and with integrity to such a degree that they've been recognized by the state of Missouri. They're shining examples of how passion, flexibility, and dedication partnered with strong systems implementation can do so much for all students, and they truly deserve the celebration. So in our first district, Bayless, we have Bayless Junior High, who received the Silver Award, and Bayless Elementary, the Gold Award. And on the next slide, we have Hazelwood School District, Walker Elementary with the Silver Award, and Hazelwood Early Childhood Center with the Gold Award. This is also Hazelwood Early Childhood Center's 10th year of recognition. On the next slides, Kirkwood School District, Westchester Elementary, who received the Gold Award. And on the next slide, Normandy Schools Collaborative. We have Washington School, who is it not only their first year of recognition, but they also received the Bronze Award this year. And Normandy Early Learning Center, the Silver Award. And finally, for Special School Districts, we have New Owner School, who also achieved the Gold Award. So these are our 8 St. Louis County, Missouri Schoolwide PBIS Award of Excellence. So a virtual round of applause for all of them. We couldn't be more proud and more grateful for our continued partnership and to you, the governing council, we thank you for the time and the space to recognize the work of those phenomenal schools.
Thank you, Ms. Teeble. All right, we will move on to item 8, superintendent's report. Dr. Keenan will be presenting item 8.01, the CSIP update, and 8.02, public review committee update. Dr. Keenan.
Thank you, Jennifer. We have 2 reports for you tonight. The first one is the CSIP update for the Governing Council, and Dr. Molly Bolton will update the progress that we've made so far with our current CSIP. The second presentation will be presented by Wendy Pendergrass, and that is in a request from our last meeting around the public review committee updates. And so we'll be pleased to update the Governing Council on those 2 reports. So Dr. Bolton, do you want to start?
Thank you, Dr. Keenan. Good evening. My name is Dr. Molly Bolton, and I am the Executive Director of Teaching, Learning, and Accountability. And tonight I'm going to present the first quarter CSIP update. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this report really is to update the Governing Council on the CSIP, which is the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, and what the teams have been working on. This is a 2-year plan, so it's due to be up in 2022. This plan is revised. This was presented to you, I believe, last spring with the updated revisions. At that time, we reduced the amount of strategies we had. And so you'll see an update on where those strategies are as of the end of first quarter, which was the middle of October. Next slide, please. So goal 1, our goal champion is Wendy Pendergrass, who is our Chief Academic Officer. Underneath goal 1, we have 4 strategies, and I will actually go through each of those strategies and report out on their progress. Next slide, please. Strategy 1.1, I am actually the strategy champion for that. And that one is to support educators in implementing a multi-tiered systems of support countywide for literacy, numeracy, and behavior. The accomplishments this first quarter were creating action plans for each of our milestones, as well as measurements for each of those milestones. We also created some social emotional learning resources for our staff, 3 documents. One included best practices in social emotional instruction. Another, it was a resource guide of published resources that are available that our district will train and support in the area of social emotional learning. And the third was an intervention document specifically for social emotional learning. We did a final review and approval of those resources, and they are now posted on our intranet, so on SSD Life, as well as the resource guide is also posted on our new website. And lastly, we discussed a process for updating our evidence-based framework. Our evidence-based framework is what we utilize when we're doing professional learning to demonstrate where that professional learning lies in the research to support special education. So we were doing some updates on that. It hadn't been updated for a couple of years. So we wanted to ensure for each of our areas in professional learning that we had the most updated research available to cite when we do those professional learning activities. At this time, no barriers were identified and no assistance needed. We have our 3 milestones are on schedule to be met at the end of the CSIP cycle. And we have 1 out of 15 tasks completed at this time. Our next steps are to update our root cause and theory of change documents that we had created before. And this is because under this new strategy, 1.1 used to just be literacy and numeracy, and behavior was a separate strategy, and we've now combined them. So we want to make sure we have a combined document for our root cause as well as our theory of change. Next slide, please. Strategy 1.2, our strategy champion for that is Casey Wisdom, who is the Director of Transition. And that strategy is to implement individual student post-secondary plans through the process of communication, self-advocacy, and self-determination. So as you can see, that strategy team, their accomplishments for first quarter, they were able to revise some videos that to reflect some of the improvements that were identified through some pilot feedback on a self-advocacy, self-determination pilot program that they launched last year. And they were also able to provide some tools to better support teacher implementation based on their process improvement cycles. They also identified districts and developed implementation plans. The following districts: Clayton High School and Middle School, Normandy High School, and 6 elementary middle schools, University City Middle School and High School, the VSP program, which is our transition program, Jennings Middle School and High School were identified this year to continue or to begin implementation of the self-determination pilot. They also created a resource repository that included an augmentative communication funding video that was developed specifically for families to help them with finding funding for augmentative communication devices for students upon graduation. And they have developed an asynchronous, meaning an online, on-demand professional learning for a communication matrix, which is an assessment we use for some of our complex communicators. Barriers identified, definitely professional learning over Zoom is working, but it's definitely not ideal. They're still working on some effective measures for the projects and milestones that they are working on. And really just looking at how to move the work forward into the existing partner districts and a process in order to reach all districts and all staff with the capacity that we have. Some assistance needed. They did ask the leadership what the expectation was regarding the districts using the process as well as the tools. As far as milestones, they have 1 milestone that is ahead of schedule, 2 that are on schedule, and 1 that is slightly behind. They have completed 7 out of 14 tasks, and their next steps is with the district's commitment, they will be moving to develop a 4 to 5 year rollout plan, which district leadership has approved that. And the 1 task that they have behind schedule is determining effective communication for students to participate in planning transition plans and putting that in place. They do feel, however, that they will be able to move that forward. COVID has caused some challenges with them completing that task. Next slide, please. For strategy 1.3, our strategy champion is John Mueller, who is the Director of Safety and Security. The strategy is to ensure that students will learn and staff will teach in an environment in which they feel safe and secure. Accomplishments for this first quarter have been, they've drafted a plan for an after action report that is in progress. And the crisis communication plan needs to match the district's hazardous vulnerability analysis. So they're working on making sure those 2 pieces are in alignment. Safety and security also has been in the past transferring their audit data information from a hard copy into an electronic copy. And we now have the capability of gathering that data electronically. So for a mid-year review, they have that system up and ready to go. During the audit process, they found that several security cameras and some related equipment needed repairs. So it was determined during those audits, and they are in the process of scheduling those repairs. Some barriers that they've encountered, the construction of the secure observation rooms for renovations is taking a lot longer than expected because of COVID. There were delays in materials. And so therefore that is a little bit behind schedule. The turnaround time it takes to complete a work order and repair with those third-party vendors also has been impacted by COVID. And some of the companies are not as responsive as they have been in the past just due to limitations. And they were also waiting to get additional help from the Department of Homeland Security in reference to the incident command structure for the district. Some assistance needed. They need to schedule with our district leadership team the incident command training. So that is in the process of being scheduled. They have 3 milestones which are on schedule, 3 out of their 10 tasks completed. And their next steps are to work on measurable outcomes and add their actions to the task list. Next slide, please. 1.4 rounds out our goal 1, and the strategy champion for that is Adrienne England, who is the manager of family and community engagement. And that strategy is to ensure that families and educators will partner to achieve high outcomes for students. Some accomplishments that have occurred in this first quarter. They have created an interactive asynchronous, meaning on demand, presentation for new teacher orientation. And with the creation of that, that will create a sustainable process for all new teachers onboarding with special school district. They are also working on making videos to support staff and families in sharing data, and definitely looking at doing that in a virtual type environment. So that during parent-teacher conferences or other opportunities that we have to partner with families, we are able to share data in a data team format, enabling the families to be partners in that. Some barriers that they have encountered is our welcoming walkthroughs that we usually do in the schools had to be postponed and rescheduled due to school closures. The family engagement survey also was postponed and rescheduled due to school, the asynchronous and online learning pieces. And they are modifying plans to facilitate family trainings from in-person to virtual opportunities. Assistance needed, looking for standard protocols, procedures, and expectations for different regions and departments and areas that want to integrate family engagement strategies to support that student performance, as well as leadership guidance and support regarding integrating those family engagement strategies systematically throughout the district. For milestones, they have 1 completed and 3 on schedule to be completed, and they have completed 2 out of their 7 tasks. Their next, they also are working on a measurement tool to best measure their impact on families and student success. And a survey on communication strategies is planned for December. Next slide, please. This brings us into goal 2, which is workforce excellence. Our goal champion is Amy Schechter, who is the Chief Human Resources Officer. And we have 2 strategies underneath that goal. Next slide, please. Our first strategy is actually both of our workforce strategies are championed by Dan Kelly, who is the Director of Human Resources. And the first one is to implement programs to increase retention and recruitment for all staff. Accomplishments that have happened in the first quarter, they were able to meet virtually and accommodate individual workloads throughout our virtual teaching environments. They were able to identify ways to continue to reach potential applicants during that global pandemic. And they identified areas to improve related to advertising. No barriers noted. They pivoted to virtual via Zoom for staff onboarding and developed some asynchronous activities for staff onboarding that have gone very well. Assistance needed, none identified. They have 4 milestones on schedule and 0 out of 4 tasks completed at this time. However, they are on schedule with their milestones. Next steps, we do have a new executive director of communications. So their plan is to connect with communications for collaboration opportunities, as well as shift the focus from why are people leaving to why are people staying, and really focus in on why our staff stays and look at advertising and promoting why people stay and work here. Next slide, please. 2.2 is also in that workforce management, and Dan Kelly, as I said, is also the strategy champion for this. And this is increasing the percentage of diversity among our administrators, teachers, and staff based on appropriate labor demographics for the St. Louis region, state, and Midwest regions. So their accomplishments, they have partnered with the Director of Equity, which is a new position for us this year, to begin the conversation about moving away from number of diverse candidates to the experience of candidates. Also continuing their current advertising with local newspapers and identifying opportunities to engage in communication department regarding design and layout of their advertisements. Another thing that wasn't listed on here is they're also exploring HBCs, or historically Black colleges, and recruitments in those areas. Some of the barriers is access to diverse candidates that have chosen the field of special education. And so hence why they're looking at some HBUs that they might be able to tap into. And also the ability to identify measures that move from number of people into experiences. So looking for some appropriate measures for that. As of now, no assistance is needed. They do have 4 milestones which are on schedule to be met and 0 out of 5 tasks completed. Again, next steps include working with communications on that design layout. Next slide, please. Goal 3 is around engagement, and our champion for that is our Executive Director of Communications, Jennifer Henry. We do have 2 strategies under that goal. Next slide, please. Our first strategy, and actually there is a name change on this one. Inadvertently, I switched the names for the strategy champions. So this strategy champion actually for 3.1 is Christine Fingers, who is a Director in Communications. And that is to implement the process for obtaining, analyzing, and using voice of customer data in our planning and decision making. Some accomplishments is they have completed a theory of change for their strategy, and they've established updated strategy measures. And they're in the process of determining how to support the strategic planning process, which began this fall. Some of the barriers, they had a less than ideal level of engagement from the previous goal area champion, and getting new goal area champion up to speed. The goal champion just started with us, I believe towards the end of October. So right at the end of this first quarter. So, and our retiring gold champion left in October as well. So kind of that transition of leadership there. Limited time and resources available in the last several months to really focus on the CSIP strategy work. Communications department has been very busy with ensuring that our families and staff have the most up-to-date communication based on the pandemic and the effects of that. Assistance needed, ensure that district leadership have a common understanding of the current state of our voice of customer data and the different activities that we have to harvest that data. They do have 3 milestones which are on schedule and 2 out of the 7 tasks completed. Next steps is to meet with that gold champion and to update her, and then catalog and evaluate current agreements that we have in the district and update their task planner to ensure all tasks are reflected. Next slide, please. Strategy 3.2, the champion is actually Kevin Andert, who is the Executive Director of Career and Technical Education and College and Career Readiness. It's a very long title. And that strategy is to develop and improve and sustain collaborative relationships with industries, businesses, and agencies to expand future opportunities for our students. Some of the accomplishments that they have had this first quarter is to build in subcommittees for each of their action steps. And they have built a working definition around what collaborative relationships are and developing a process to capture kind of that present level of our current relationships or partnerships that we may have. They are also working on capturing a current list of existing agreements that includes contracts and MOUs. And from there, they're going to complete a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as well as compile a list of questions for the district's attorneys regarding how to establish those formal agreements with many of our partners. No significant barriers, and the assistance again comes from those district attorneys just to address some of those foundational questions regarding those formal agreements, such as who is eligible to negotiate on behalf of the district. They do have 3 milestones and out of their 13 tasks completed. Some of their next steps included completing the action log and adding their tasks to Drive. And then they were also going to follow up and update the new goal champion. Next slide, please. Our final goal is goal 4, which is equity. Our champion is Wendy Pendergrass, who is the Chief Academic Officer, and we have 1 strategy under that goal. Next slide, please. Our strategy champion for 4.1 is Dr. Michael Macklin, who is our new Director of Equity. That strategy is to collaborate with customers, stakeholders, and programs and departments within SSD to ensure processes are in place to achieve equity in student outcomes through educational practices, business operations, and allocation of resources. Some accomplishments in this first quarter have been to begin getting feedback and finalizing the equity definition, and that will go to our board in January, as well as a draft of an equity framework for our district, and also auditing policies and regulations from the lens of equity. The policy review has been completed and the regulation review is almost completed. No barriers at this time. Assistance needed is continued guidance and support regarding integrating those equity strategies systematically throughout the district. We have 4 on-schedule milestones, no tasks completed as of yet. And some next steps is we are adjusting the due date for the review of policies. We adjusted that to be completed this month as we included regulations as well. What we found is there weren't a lot of inequities in our policies. However, in our regulations, we may be suggesting some revisions. And working with our evaluation and research department for a strong outcome measure, as well as updating the action log and tasks in our team drive. Last slide. And I now open it up for any questions that you may have in regard to our CSIP updates.
I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Debbie at Parkway. I have a few questions. The first one is related to strategy 1.1. Does the special school district offer consultation services to the other districts, or do they work with the partnering districts on the literacy piece, and specifically with the screening for dyslexia, which is now a Missouri state requirement that all districts do that? And I know our district is coming upon a vote to approve a particular screening program. Does SSD work with our districts to help them come up with the proper screening tools for such things?
So this past spring, pre-COVID, we began working on what we called the integrated tiered models, where we worked directly with partner districts and laid out what curriculum resources they use in literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning, as well as what assessments they were using. And then based upon that, together we created a gap analysis. Within that gap analysis, many districts identified areas that they may need to work on further. And so we're kind of with them every step of the way with that.
Okay.
You can find those integrated tiered models posted on our website underneath the partner districts. And then if you click on your particular district, there's an icon for the integrated tiered models. So you're able to see that work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
My other question was related to strategy 1.3 on the safe and secure environment. Again, a similar question. Does SSD work with the partnering districts to evaluate policy and assess the SRO situations, et cetera, the various different things that are taking place within the partnering district to ensure safe and secure environments for SSD students?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of any collaboration in that area.
Molly, can I take that?
Yes.
Yeah. So good evening, Governing Council. Wendy Pendergrass, Chief Academic Officer. I met with our coordinator of safety and security last week, Eric and John, to discuss developing a quarterly review with all of the directors of safety in each partner district, to where we can specifically look at that, see how we can help support them, they can help support us, how policies can blend or we can learn from each other when it comes to workers' compensation, when it comes to a variety of things. Absolutely.
Thank you, Wendy.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions,
I had a question, I'm sorry. My question was regarding section 2.2. And I just was asking I need some more clarification. You said you were moving, and I believe that's with regards to hiring of diverse candidates, moving from a number to experiences. Can you clarify what you're meaning when you say experiences versus a number?
So this came out of the recommendation from our equity director. And so we are looking for candidates who also have experiences with diverse populations, as well as looking for diverse candidates. What we are finding is there, especially when we look at African-American males, not a lot of African-American males who are choosing to go into the field of special education. And so it's, very difficult to find them. Not to say we're not going to keep looking and we're going to keep pushing. And in fact, we often look within at some of our paraprofessionals and other folks who work in our district and try to promote them to move forward in their education to become special education teachers. But it is very difficult. And this is a nationwide problem, not just specific to St. Louis. So, our equity director said, also looking at those teachers who have experiences working with diverse populations, as well as in high poverty areas, will often lead to great candidates as well. So be careful not to limit ourselves. But also be looking for those types of diversity in our candidates.
And this is Amy Schechter, the Chief Human Resources Officer. I would just add that it's difficult to have a percentage of candidates that we're going to increase when we've evaluated the candidate pool to draw from, and it's limited. Like Molly indicated, only 2% of educators nationwide in special education are Black males. And when we've worked with our universities that we get most of our candidates from, they're not having any Black males enrolled in their program. It's difficult to say that we're going to increase our hiring by a certain percentage when we know the candidate pool isn't there. Our focus needs to be more on building the candidate pool.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think we are ready to move on to the Public Review Committee update.
Thank you. Good evening again. I am Wendy Pendergrass, Chief Academic Officer, and I will be covering with you tonight the summary that was requested for our update and review of our Public Review Committee. So 1996 Missouri legislator mandated that we have a Public Review Committee. This committee typically meets every 4 years, and it reviews a variety of documents, conducts a thorough review of the structure, the governance, the administration, financial management, how we deliver our special education services, the cooperation between us and partner districts, the district role when it comes to advocating for students with disabilities. And it reviews documents and then is responsible for finding and regarding the conflicts and being responsive to our needs and concerns of the special school district, of our citizens of the special school district. Next slide. What we also do, what the PRC also does is investigates and documents. They thoroughly go through multiple documents that we have in the district. It also, July 1st of 2022, will deliver to the SSD Board of Education its findings. Our last PRC review was in 2018. We had 9 members that diligently and thoughtfully worked through several documents and came up with 13 recommendations to support continuous improvement. I was glad to find that we had no issues, but the recommendations, I'm glad Molly went before us because you can see some of these recommendations are fit quite nicely into our CSIP plan. Next slide. Recommendation 1 is equity. Our PRC, our Public Review Committee, reviewed several documents. There were 8 recommendations that they referred to in a 2017 equity study. They also reviewed the SSD blueprint for equity, and they made the following recommendations. Equity touches each recommendation, and as you find it on the very next slide, but don't turn it yet, we have a scope and sequence. So what we've done so far is equity definition is being finalized and will be shared with the Board of Education on January 21st. We, as Molly stated earlier, we are currently working on or looking into different board policies specifically regarding equity. We're working with the definition statement and the framework first. We examine expenditure patterns as well as staffing patterns and adjust accordingly. We continue to collaboratively work with our partner districts when we're sharing student data. We have a project team in place to explore student achievements and a dashboard that will combine data across the county. We continually work to improve our partnership plans and accountability. We continue to work to define and support the role of our area coordinator to make sure that they are collaborative in our partner districts and our communication is solid. We implemented an integrated tiered model of support that identifies literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning for all partner districts. We are working to embed professional learning between us with the best practices of what we do in special school district and our partner district. And of course, our CSIP goal, specifically number 2, workforce excellence, is committed to the recruitment and retention of our staff. Next slide. A model was created. I wanted to share this with you. If you can see anything that we're doing in this district, we really want to use a lens of equity. So Dr. Bauer and a few others created this model for us to use as we're walking through multiple processes. If you look at our inputs, who we identify, the data, looking through an equity lens, when we build our comprehensive school improvement plan, when we do our cycle of continuous improvement, making sure that we identify these plans, we re-identify it with equity, and of course, the end all be all is student success in everything we do. Next slide. recommendation number 2 was for our partnership agreement, and that was to continue to review and revise current partnership agreements to evaluate the progress, to, of course, establish equity in the dissemination, implementation, and accountability requirements of the agreement. Partnership agreements were revised in 2019, and a committee that was comprised of superintendents, partner district liaisons, and our directors of special education made suggestions. We updated our partnership agreement in a collaborative model. Directors and partner districts liaisons are reviewing these agreements right now currently and getting signed off on, and they review them annually. They complete an assessment or an evaluation, and they identify as collaborative entities, strengths, and areas that they need to focus on and improve. The executive director of partner district will review and monitor the progress quarterly when we meet with partner district directors, lead ACs, and our liaisons. Next slide. Our partnership agreement continues when it looks at technology and data sharing. The PRC wanted us to continue to move forward to be able to identify a set of data that could be shared, technology that could be shared, staffing, and professional development. And again, we are working together to share data. Some data is easier to share than others because of the numerous systems that are across 22 districts. SSD and partner districts collaborate to distribute whatever number of computers is needed for staff and students. Doug Austin and Mark Howell have done a phenomenal job working with our partners in the technology department of our schools, working with our directors to disseminate laptops, Chromebooks, and iPads to staff during this digital environment. They even created a circle drive to where staff could come in and pick up new devices or drop off old devices. We continue to integrate a system of support in our tiered models by working with our partner districts to capture all instructional materials and assessments. And again, as Molly said earlier, these are posted on our website. If you go to partner districts, there is a tab on the side that says integrated model, and you can see your district's integrated model. SSD has identified best practice and will continue to support our integrated models when it comes to professional development for our staff, special education teachers, and paraprofessionals. Next slide. Continuous improvement. So continue to use the Baldrige methodology for process improvement. It is embedded into the culture at SSD. We use it numerous ways. Example would be a partnership agreement and any process that we commonly use with SSD. I'm sure if you realize SSD applied for and won the Missouri Quality Award in 2019. We used the practice of continuous improvement and the tools to go along with it when we reviewed our partnership agreement. In our classrooms, we continue to focus on continuous improvement as a part of new teacher induction. SSD Board of Education is in the process right now of identifying our 5-year strategic plan, specifically using these tools to look at vision, mission, core values, and goals for the district. Next slide. Customer satisfaction is important to our district and is important to continuous improvement, measuring customer satisfaction to improve results. We use a variety of ways of getting feedback, such as our voice of customer, our voice from our partner district customer, our employee voice, and community voice. The way in which we do this is climate surveys that are conducted in the spring, our employee surveys, our engagement surveys that are conducted in the fall. We run daily a Let's Talk, which is available on our website, which identifies very specific areas that the community, staff, or families may have issues with or questions about, and that information is delivered right to the people that run those departments so we can answer. And then our results are always published on our Voice of Customers page, which is also on our website. Next slide. Recommendation 6 is our work with PETA, or our Parent Education and Diversity Awareness. And this is, of course, to expand parent education and diversity awareness department to support the growing needs of our families and the communities in which we serve. We're developing support and collaborative relationships with our SSD parents, our PAC, our PETA, our transition department, and introducing the new position of Director of Equity. We are providing leadership and support to numerous St. Louis County agencies with collaboration that meet monthly in our efforts to help support specifically now COVID, distance learning, but basically what is going on and needed in our community. Provide support to our Parent Advisory Council, and we are transforming PETA's focus from accessibility parent education to really getting them out and providing direct support to our families and the support for staff engagement. Next slide. Number 7, conflict resolution. We have a quality assurance or compliance committee to address transparency awareness, evaluate the effectiveness of the complaint and resolution process between parents, legal guardians, partner districts, anyone who would be involved, and is outlined in our board policy. So our special education process committee reviews any important file review findings. We communicate those findings on compliance, and we create and distribute necessary process improvements to our staff, whether that's a Moodle training, whether it's a staff letter, whether it's any hot topics that we can do in a staff meeting. Our Director of Legal Service and Compliance reviews and prepares and discusses complaints and resolution outcomes with our directors and our administrative staff in our schools. She looks for any hot topics, any complaints, any type of new things that are coming to where we can be strategic and plan accordingly so our students are successful. We will be embedding more monitoring into daily routines of our leadership staff as we move forward. So really looking at the compliance piece, getting back to special education and its basics. Next slide. Number 8 is our career and technical education, and that's to regional discussions between SSD hosted by our CTE program should continue in serving as initiator and lead discussions for our partner districts. So Dr. Andert, hey, I just gave you a promotion. Kevin Andert developed partner district advisory team that meets quarterly, one representation from each district. And we had great representation at our last quarterly meeting. We develop goals, align programs, share data, increase communication, and expand student opportunities. In our last meeting, we really had a good heart-to-heart when it came to scheduling with the different schedulings and the virtual compared to non-virtual. It was great to have the upfront conversations with our partner district liaisons with CTE to kind of head off some of the issues that we are going to come upon as we go back virtual. We also have MOUs with Fox and Windsor. And right now we have about 9 students that are participating at South Tech from Fox and Windsor. Next slide. Continuing on with CTE for additional funding throughout St. Louis County. We have aligned our funding with SSD CTE mission by providing relevant, high quality technical education to prepare and inspire every student for them to succeed. We have ended athletic program at North Tech and phasing out the full day program. We've eliminated the stipend that are not related to our career and technical education programs. We are expanding programs at North and South Tech with academic integration credits. We're looking at adding or currently adding design and entrepreneurship, hospitality, business. We're expanding our automotive and technology construction. Next slide. For teacher and paraprofessional recruitment, we need to improve recruitment and retention initiatives to attract and retain highly qualified teachers and paraprofessionals. As stated earlier, we're strategic placement of print advertising and increase social media presence, going to right now virtual college or university job fairs, expanding our relationships with universities through applicants, seminars, through Zoom calls, through our own employees that are alumni or adjunct professors, employ listening visits, staff-centered problem solving. So how can we make life easier for staff? In our joint resolution with our staff and working conditions, we were able to increase our paraprofessional starting rate from $14.81 to $15.35. And learning from paraprofessionals for induction into District Paraprofessional Developing Academy, SSD had 0 teacher vacancies at the beginning of the 2021 school year, and that has not happened in a long time. So kudos to Amy Schechter and the HR department. Recommendation number 11. Improve communication. This is a focus of Dr. Keenan and the district leadership team and the district in whole to improve current SSD communication strategies to be shared with all stakeholders. So we want to develop and keep effective two-way communication with parents, with our families, with students receiving services, with our partner districts, with our teachers, staff, whoever in our community that can provide us feedback. We have revamped our district website with direct links to partner districts. Board meetings are live streamed and recorded via YouTube, creating greater access to board actions and information along with an interpreting service. Monthly communication newsletters are sent out to staff and families to discuss recent information, celebrations, issues, and trends. And again, Let's Talk portal on SSD's website allows family and staff to share comments or concerns, celebrations also, and ask questions directly to the district leadership team. We also post our board agendas on Facebook ahead of the meeting to give staff and the community proper awareness of what's being discussed at the upcoming board meeting. Recommendation number 12, please. Next slide. So our governance, along with communication, the SSD Board of Education works collaboratively with our SSD Governing Council, our Parent Advisory Council, by conducting joint orientation of all 3 groups prior to June. So district orientation process have been reviewed, presentations have been created and completed with all groups. District administration also meets monthly to review topics for parent workshops, brainstorm collaboration opportunities, and answer questions about trending topics. Slide 13, please, recommendation. Finally, we have our finance. SSD Special School District uses a zero-based, or we're currently using a zero-based budgeting to plan expenditures for our annual operating budget. The Board of Education and Governing Council to approve and review our operating budget. It is also required as a state statute. SSD will engage annually with external auditing firms to ensure financial integrity. SSD will continue the current process used to establish long-term financial projections for revenue, expenses, and future program fundings. Our update is SSD continues to have a strong tax base. Because of the strong tax base, the Board of Education approved the FY21 budget with a projected deficit of $20 million or approximately 4.17%. SSD was able to increase salaries for the year and continue with our 5-year capital improvement project. And we continue to offer excellent benefit packages for staff and families. Next slide. I do believe that is all 13 recommendations and feedback. I now ask for any questions.
I have one question with regard to, I believe it was number 9, in reference to the CTE. As one of the members of that PRC committee, I know one of the recommendations was to actually increase opportunities for CTE for students who actually have have disabilities, so that there's not just for students who are coming from partner districts without any IEP or have any learning challenges. So has there been an increase in that programming?
Yes, ma'am. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. We are actually providing some co-taught classroom experiences. I don't know if you're familiar. There used to be hybrid programs. We are fading them out and going with a co-taught approach, which means we have the constructional trade teacher and a teacher that carries a special education certification co-teaching in the construction trade. And what she does is walks around from the multiple shops and lessons and provide direct support for special education students, or basically all students that would need a little extra support in a classroom. We also have different strands for students that are looking at maybe different certifications for children when it comes to technology, developing skills for students and developing, it's our hopes that with our budget practice, we're able to hire more co-taught teachers. So hiring several special education teachers so we can provide them in numerous shops amongst our tech school programs.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any more questions? Okay, we will move on to item 9.01. We have 3 board positions up for election in April of 2021 for the SSD School Board. We have 1 unexpired term in Subdistrict 4, which covers Ferguson, Florissant, Pattonville, and Riverview Gardens. And the 3-year terms for Subdistrict 5, which is Brentwood, Kirkwood, Lindbergh, Maplewood, Richmond Heights, Valley Park, and Webster Groves. And the 3-year term for Subdistrict 6, Clayton, Normandy, Rittner, and University City. So filing begins at 8 a.m. on December 15th of 2020 and ends at 5 p.m. on January 19th, 2021. And the election will be held on April 6th, 2021. All right, moving along. Questions? Okay,
Our
item
election
10.
will be March 1st.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Our election will be March 1st.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because we do the board election at our March meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, election will be held on March 1st at the Governing Council meeting. All right, item 10, our calendar of events is posted in board docs, and you'll find a list of the upcoming Governing Council meetings and the tentative agenda topics for each meeting. Moving along to item 11, announcements. The district does not have any formal announcements right now, and do any Governing Council members have anything to share? We'll move on to item 12, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
And
Second.
a second?
Second.
All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah, happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Get out of here.